Space Studio here at CES 2024. We're sponsored by Integral Ad Science. I am James Kotecki. Very happy to welcome my next guest, Jamie Power, SVP Addressable Sales, Disney Advertising. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So Disney advertising, can you give us a sense, I mean, everybody knows Disney. Can you give us a sense of Disney advertising, the scope, the scale, where we might encounter it?
Yes, so Disney advertising is responsible for the sales and integrated marketing of anything the Walt Disney's companies entertainment and sports offering. So that's streaming, linear, audio, social, and brands that you can think of are ESPN, ESPN Plus, Hulu, ABC. That gives you a little bit of context.
Quite a large scope. And what brings you here to CES? What's your message? What's your main purpose?
So Disney's been at CES for 20 years. I think more and more as audiences fragmented, technology is more important to kind of bring it all together. We're really excited because this is the first year that Disney is hosting their Data and Tech Showcase live at CES. Usually it's a virtual event, but I think it's more and more important. We're really excited about the technology that we bring to market, and instead of just talking about content all the time, we want to talk about the technology that enables it.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of those technologies. What are some of the ones that you're excited to highlight?
I think from our perspective, Disney 10 years ago had the foresight to build their own identity graph, which is unique. A lot of other companies are using someone else's, and the fact that we have our own graph really helps us. If I look at the breakup of Disney's supply, right now 50% is linear and 50% is happening in streaming. So if we didn't have an identity graph, it would be really hard for advertisers to figure out how to maximize their buys with us. I think it's really interesting to kind of look at that data and be able to kind of help clients plan.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge now is if you're looking at fragmentation and there's all these different avenues to advertise, to figure out which is adding reach and which is adding frequency, and the fact that the underpinning of our stack does that, it allows clients to kind of maximize the reach across any buy.
But I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume the idea is there's a person who's watching ESPN and then they're also on Disney Plus because their kids might have that, and then they may be interacting with ABC at other times of the day, and you're able to kind of understand who that person, maybe that family is, and figure out ways to serve advertising that make the most sense.
Yeah, and it's not people aren't just watching linear or streaming, it's additive, and how do you put that all together to maximize the audience? And if you take a show like The Bachelor audience on linear is a little bit older, but on a streaming environment, it's a younger audience. But if you didn't buy both, you would miss 40% of the reach. So I think understanding that, if you want to reach the audience of The Bachelor, it's not just buying one, it's how do you bring them all together to reach the audience?
When you think about the near-term opportunities for the coming year, do you see it as an evolution, or do you see any kind of revolutionary kind of leaps forward that potentially might be on the horizon?
I definitely think there's definitely leaps that are coming, and it's interesting. Near term for us, we're rolling out the ad tier of Disney Plus globally, which is very exciting. I think, what's interesting is Disney has 15 years of history on Hulu and what worked in streaming, but as we rolled out on Disney Plus, we were thoughtful, and we didn't just take what worked on Hulu and just do that same experience on Disney Plus. So it's taking the learnings and being intentional on how we roll it out, and really creating those viewer first, choice based, because at the end of the day, the advertiser is going to make the decision, the viewer is going to make the decision what's acceptable. So I think that is really exciting. I also think new ad formats is really, taking a 30-second ad, again, same thing, that worked in linear doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in a streaming environment. So making sure that we're introducing more ad formats and doing that in a couple different ways. We're doing some that are proprietary and unique to Disney, which we're excited about. And I think that's interesting, and we're also making sure that we're interoperable with the marketplace. So as the industry adopts new formats, we want to make it simple to buy and allow them to buy at scale across the entire ecosystem and not just on Disney.
So much of what good advertising is trying to do often is tell a story. Disney is obviously, if I think about the company overall, storytelling is probably one of the top words that one would use to describe that company. That's the DNA of the company. So then how do you think about that storytelling DNA when it comes to the decisions that you're making around what kind of ad products you're serving up and how you're developing the technology?
Yeah, I think premium content matters. I've been at Disney for a year and a half, never worked at a company that actually had the content. So I saw through all the measurement, all the campaigns that I've done in the past, that it does matter to be in premium environments. So when you're taking a premium environment like Disney and then we have the ability to layer on audiences to add that layer of relevance. That's what's going to drive conversion metrics, that's what's going to drive engagement, and that's what's going to keep consumers happy. I think from an ad experience, we want it to be additive because, again, it's Walt Disney, right? It's the fandom, and no one has viewers that are that engaged. So we always want to make sure it's additive, and we're not just slapping ads at them.
So we are here, I believe it's 1 year, or maybe just a little bit beyond 1 year of having ads on Disney Plus? Is that right?
Yeah, we passed the 1 year anniversary.
So you talked about some of the things you learned from Hulu. Were there things that you learned from doing it on Disney Plus? I guess there's not another Disney Plus that you're going to have to roll out to. But like, what have you learned over that? What are you proud of from that experience?
I mean, we were very deliberate in the rollout of it, and we wanted to really like kind of wait and see. Right now, 50% of consumers that choose the ads, that sign up, are choosing the ad tier, and I think that's indicative of the way that we kind of rolled it out. But yeah, the way that consumers view ads on Disney Plus, being its more long-form content and movies, is different if you're watching episodic content on Hulu. The other thing that we're really excited about is we're experimenting with new formats. I think a great example of that was the simulcast we did with Toy Story. So during an NFL game, you also could see within the Toy Story characters bringing the game to life. And that was, again, it's additive. It's bringing fandom, it's educating younger kids, and it's bringing families together to watch it in a different way. Yeah,
that definitely got my attention. We have Disney Plus, of course, as
it was
everyone
really,
does.
it was cool.
I was like, I'm not sure what this is, but it's kind of compelling. I want to check that out.
And if you notice, the ad experience in there was not in your face. The advertiser that sponsored that, it was quizzes, it was engagement, it was like different formats, not just a 30-second ad.
Well, and if you don't like this question, don't worry about it. But I am curious, like the way that the kinds of advertising you could have is so integrated with other things in the company, right? So you could be having a Toy Story character in something, and that is in effect kind of like an ad or like a contextual ad for another Toy Story property, or a movie, or even a ride, or things like that. And I imagine that kind of integration is something that you're thoughtful about too.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we have the ability to create immersive experiences and kind of like surround the consumer in ways that are engaging. Like we're never going to do something that we don't think is in the best interest of the viewer, and we're not going to ever, get in the way of that. So I think we're just always very, very thoughtful.
Yeah. We are here in 2024, and I want to talk about equitability, or what are you, not you personally, or maybe you personally, if you want to answer it this way. What is Disney advertising talking about and doing to make the industry more equitable for different kinds of folks?
Yeah, I mean, no one has doubled down on women's sports like Disney. We think it's important to have, that women in the boardroom, women on the fields, and we think it drives the business forward. I also think that Disney's pillar is diversity of thought and making sure that we have equitable discussions and we have the right people at the table. And if you even think about like how the world is like massively changing, if we don't have different thoughts and people questioning like why are we doing it this way, why are we, like the right people need to be at the table, and we make sure that happens.
Yeah. Let's do a fill in the blank if you don't mind.
Oh, great.
The future of our industry is blank.
Exciting.
Great. You don't even need to say anything else. That's great. A one-word answer is very appropriate, and exciting it is. And so speaking of exciting futures, 2024 will be the year of blank.
So I think it's going to be, this is a crazy answer, but it's going to be consolidation and expansion. It's not one or the other, it's and I think it's strategic consolidation, and I think the consolidation needs to happen, and I think the consumers, the viewers are going to force that.
In terms of people basically saying, I don't want to pay for 5, 6, 7 different streaming services.
Yeah, or even if you're an agency and you're trying to plan, like all streamers aren't created equal. Some are going to build reach, some are going to build frequency. I don't need necessarily all the frequency builders, and I need to kind of understand how to put it together.
Final question for you, and again, I appreciate your ability and your willingness to kind of go with me on some of these. If you could leave a message to yourself about your business and your industry to look at in 5 years, what do you want to tell your future self to maybe kind of remember or anchor about this time?
So I would say, like, be grateful to be part of a workforce that's changing so much. Make sure that you're agile, you're accepting of it, that you're always leaned in, keeping up, and have fun.
Well, thank you so much. It's been interesting to chat with you, and really appreciate you bringing your perspective here to the C Space Studio.
All right,
Thank
thanks
you
so much.
That's Jamie Power from Disney Advertising. I'm James Kotecki from the C Space Studio. We're here at CES 2024. We are live. Please keep it right here. So many more great conversations are just ahead.